Good Yentif. The Iran deal. There, I said it. The Iran deal deserves to be discussed during these high holidays, though we're beyond the conversation of whether or not it is a good deal. Certainly we Jews are known to disagree with each other from time to time, but few topics have divided the American Jewish community and even the Israeli Jewish community the way the conversation about Iran has. And now, on the heels of Ann Coulter's remarks suggesting that the Jewish lobby is overly influential in American government, I fear that the accusations will only increase regarding Jewish dual loyalty and the stereotype of some sort of secret Jewish cabal in our government. Now, with the passage of the Iran deal virtually secure, we must reflect deeply on the nature of the debate itself. There were, of course, the inevitable politics that influenced the conversation, as well as the combative rhetoric. And there's also the natural, and I might argue appropriate, American Jewish instinct to protect Israel like a parent defends a vulnerable child caught in a group of bullies. Scraping aside the politics then, and the rhetoric, and even the perpetual existential fear, it seems like the core of the debate about the Iran deal really comes down to one fundamental question. Are human beings capable of change? After all, for those in favor of the deal and for those opposed to it, we all agree that we must seek to prevent Iran from weaponizing its nuclear capabilities. We all agree in demanding that Iran stop funding terrorism and that it cease its attempts to destabilize the Middle East. And we all agree that we want to do more than just militarily block Iran from its menacing ways, especially so that it doesn't continue, especially we actually want to, let me try that again. I got excited. We actually want the Iranian leadership to change its essential beliefs, or at least how it acts on those beliefs. While we all agree then on the need for Iran to change its ways, we disagree on how to achieve these goals, on how to effect true and lasting change among the Iranian leadership and even among its general population. Of course, it's no surprise that we would disagree on the path to change, since the very nature of diplomacy on any level assumes that human beings are capable of change. To this point, though, modern scientific research reveals that the human capacity for change is limited at best, suggesting that by the time someone turns 30, the bulk of his or her personality is already formed. That's right. For us men in the room, the bulk of our personality is already formed and very unlikely to change. For the women, well, when you turn 30, you'll understand. Moreover, some newer research in the emerging field of personality neuroscience suggests that our personality traits are biogenic, stemming from our genes, which helps explain why so many studies have found personality to be relatively stable over time. I am who I am, God proclaimed to Moses from the burning bush. We are who we are too. But the difference between humankind and animals, for example, is that through self-awareness and discipline, through heart, soul, and mind, we can overcome our inner character flaws. While one's personality may not change much as one ages, the behaviors in which we engage, despite our personalities, can change. In Genesis, after the flood, God explains to Noah, "Never again will I curse the ground because of humans, even though every inclination of the human heart is evil from childhood." Our rabbis expound upon this verse to teach that within each person rests a Yetzer Hara and a Yetzer Hatov, an inclination toward evil, yes, but also an inclination toward good. If we look more carefully at the concepts, We come to learn that there's not a proverbial devil and a proverbial angel sitting on each of our shoulders. Rather, the Yetzer Hara is the voice in our head that leads us to make choices based on our animal instincts. Physical pleasure, fear, personal advancement. In fact, our rabbis teach that our Yetzer Hara is the reason we get married, build a house, or start a career, all of which are positive actions, even if rooted in selfish intentions. Where we go awry is when we let our evil inclination take over, abusing alcohol or drugs, overeating, promiscuity, or seeking to prosper at the expense of another. It is even our Yetzer Hara in control when we watch too much television, oversleep, gossip, or take others for granted. Marriage, building a home, and establishing a career are examples of the Yetzer Hara put into check by the Yetzer HaTov. Here's another example of achieving balance between the competing inclinations. The worst kept secret in the world was that Israel itself may or may not possess nuclear weapons. But Israel has proven that as a perceived nuclear state, it is a rational operator that would use those weapons only in the most dire circumstances. The Yetzer Hara may have led Israel to nuclear power, but the Yetzer HaTov, the spiritual element within us that allows us to rise above our animal instincts, the Yetzer HaTov prevents Israel from using the threat of nuclear war as an offensive tool. Because in the past the Iranian leadership has chanted death to America and death to Israel, we're less inclined to believe that their good inclination is in control of their evil inclination. Achieving the balance between their Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer HaTov is far from easy. Time and again, our animal instincts overtake our holier inclinations. Nevertheless, the very premise of Yom Kippur, the very reason that we'll spend virtually 24 hours in shul together, is that Judaism teaches that people can change. If not our inner core personality, then certainly the choices we make despite our personality. When we become aware of our Yetzer Hara and how it affects our life, when we recognize how our fears, insecurities, and genetic makeup affect how we respond to events in the world, we can begin to atone for past mistakes and make improvements in our life. We can prove that humankind is capable of real and lasting change. For the next 24 hours, I ask you to seriously contemplate, in what ways are you in need of change? How can you allow your inner holy self to overcome your more earthly characteristics? Do you gossip? Maybe. Do you overeat? Are you unfaithful? Are you more critical of others than you are of yourself? Do you work too hard? Do you create excuses or rationalizations in place of doing that which is right, which is holy, which is just? Then, after 24 hours of serious contemplation, I challenge you to change. If not your inner being, then at least the choices you make, despite your already developed identity. Whether we are in favor of or opposed to the Iran deal, we all expect the Iranian leadership to change its nefarious ways, to see things from our perspective, and to do right in this world. We place upon them our core belief that with the proper motivation and appropriate reflection, people can change. We demand it of the Iranians, but standing here before the judge on high, are we willing to accept that assertion for ourselves as well and to act on it? It certainly is easy to sit here and declare to ourselves that yes, this year I'll make changes, but living those changes and continuing them is another matter. The first step, though, the first step in the change process can happen right here, right now. The first step is working on improving our perspective on life. It was a very hot day, and the Rabbi of a certain village in the old country needed some air. He interrupted his studies, opened the door of his yeshiva, and walked into the village street, where he was surrounded by several of his devoted students. Across the street, the Rebbe and his students noticed Yaakov, the water carrier. As usual, Yaakov had his heavy pole draped across his shoulders. 2 huge pails of water hung from either end of the pole. And as Yaakov walked through the village street, the water in the pail sloshed from side to side. Yaakov was complaining, not so softly, as he made his way through town. "Say, Yaakov, my friend," hollered the Rebbe from the far side of the street. "How are you today?" "Oi, Rebbe, not so good, not so good. My shoulders, they ache from carrying this water. Year after year, until I cannot even count the years, I've been schlepping water. And my children, not one of them wants to go into the family business. They're too busy studying Torah and the good books. They have no time to help me. And my wife, oi, she nudges me to do this and to do that. As soon as I get home, she's after me to do one thing or another. Oi, Rebbe, not so good, not so good." And off Yaakov walked, water sloshing in his pails. The Rebbe rushed up to Yaakov and asked him to set down his pails. The Rebbe embraced Yaakov, and as he did so, the Rebbe whispered in Yaakov's ear, "Blessings to you, my brother. Blessings to you." Time passed, perhaps a few weeks, and once more the Rebbe opened the door of the yeshiva so that he and his devoted students could take in some fresh air. And what do you know? Who was across the street just at that moment? Yaakov, the water carrier. "Shalom Aleichem, Yaakov, may peace be upon you. How are you today?" asked the Rebbe. "You know, Rebbe, not so bad, not so bad. You know my shoulders. They've served me well and continue to do so. They're strong, and as a result, I can bring water to all the people of our village. And my children, the Holy One has blessed them with a bright, inquisitive minds. They're bringing me such nachas, such pride and joy from their learning. Their knowledge fuels my soul. And my dear wife of so many years, if not for her asking me to do things around the house, I wouldn't know how much she needed me. She does need me, and I need her. Rebbe, I am blessed. My life is blessed. And thank you for asking. Baruch Hashem, thank God. I'm blessed." The students gathered around the Rebbe, rushing to ask him if this was the same Yaakov, the one who just weeks before had been so miserable. "Yes, it's Yaakov the water carrier," said the Rebbe. "Only this time, he's come to see his tsuris, his troubles, as a blessing." The first step is to change perspective. Upon accomplishing that, real change becomes possible. Whether we're in favor of or opposed to the Iran deal, we all agree that the Iranian leadership must do better. They must cease funding terrorism throughout the Middle East. They must cease calling for the United States and Israel's destruction. They must resist turning their nuclear knowledge into nuclear weapons. Iran's leadership must stop denying or minimizing the Holocaust. And Iran should no longer seek to destabilize the entire region of the world. But I believe in my heart, if we're to ask the Iranian leadership to change, then we, with our own individual lives, must demonstrate to them that humanity is indeed capable of such change. The Iranians might not be watching each of us, but putting the onus on ourselves to change strengthens our demand that they should change too. So as we join together on this evening of Yom Kippur, we're called upon to examine the deeds we have performed in the past year so that we will truly change. The next 24 hours are here to remind us that no one is perfect and that God is calling upon us all now to change, to follow our Yetzer HaTov, our holy, righteous, non-animalistic impulses in order to do better. On this Kol Nidrei night, may God grant us the wisdom to reflect, but also the strength to first improve our perspective, and then enact the changes we know are necessary. In addition, as we enter this new year and prepare to watch the Iran deal take effect, may God bless Israel, the United States, and all the world with peace, with security, and with freedom. Gemar Chatima Tova. May we each be sealed in the book of life for goodness and for life. And let us say together, Amen.